Welcome to the Social for Brokers podcast. Today, I have with me Jonathan Southgate from Sterling Southgate. And as part of our marketing march, that's a bit of a mouthful, we're going to be speaking to Jonathan about sales funnels, free downloads. So we're talking about like PDF downloads that you can put on your website and how they can help generate leads, because that's obviously what the purpose of them is. We're also going to have a chat to him about the mistakes or the things that he's learned over the last couple of years that he's been doing them as well. So as part of our marketing march of 2023, Jonathan, I welcome you to the podcast.
Hi, Chris. Good to see you again. Thanks
Good to see you. Yeah. So, yes, Jonathan, this is the second time that we've been on. And actually, it's our third time recording because we did one before, didn't we? And the sound quality wasn't very good. So we recorded... I'm talking about the previous episode. We recorded that again, didn't we? This is the third time you've been on, second time featured.
Yep.
Thanks for coming on, mate. So talk to us, before we get into the marketing side, talk to us about how the business is going, what's been happening since we last spoke to you.
Okay. So when we last spoke, it was sort of the seed point of our business. So we'd been going around about 12 months, having left a previous position to start the business. And it was quite an exciting, bubbly time because, we're starting to make a bit of money and things were starting to happen for the business. We were starting to talk to some good introducers. And at that point, it was all about the level of consistency in January. So I'd had a really consistent January, February, March, posting every day. And I'd committed to doing that on social media. And that was yielding some good results. So fast forward to now, we're just about to employ 2 new mortgage brokers, which will start in April of this year. Got a new admin, and we're again just going on the front foot, speaking to as many introducers as possible to create those lead streams alongside the social media and obviously website leads that we get.
Right, awesome. So growing the team. So how many is there of you now?
So there's two admin and myself just on the advice. So it'll be 2 more advisors, and so effectively 3 of us plus two admin.
Of course. And are they remote work? Do they work from an office?
Remote work, yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So what we want to try and do is create hubs across the south of England and South Wales. So one of the advisors we're employing is in South Wales, so we'll create a hub around that advisor, and the other one is in the southwest of England. So again, we'll create a hub around that advisor. Where I see it's 5 separate hubs, including central London, 2 to 3 advisors in each. All supporting each other with their own ecosystem around them of admin support and business development support. So, yeah.
And have you done this via, I know this isn't marketing, so we'll touch on it slightly, but did you have a plan at the beginning of what you wanted to do and what timescales you wanted to achieve that? Because it sounds like you're this is happening and this will happen and this will happen.
Yeah, so I think it's always good to start with a plan, and it always flexes across any business. So whatever you start out with the intention of, it's very difficult to kind of always stick to plan on that. I know some people are very resolute in their thinking of it's going to happen. I'll almost will it into existence. But I'm conscious of organic growth. I didn't want to just employ people for the sake of employing people. I wanted to know there were certain areas of interest and certain types of personality. So when we set out, I wanted to get to 10 advisors inside 5 years. We're 2 years in, and it's still me plus 2 admin. So, clearly those growth plans will just need to be flexed a little bit. We still want to get to 10 mortgage advisors, then start wealth management and end up with 5 wealth managers across those regions as well.
Interesting. Right, let's get into the marketing side. We've heard about the business. It's good to hear how that's growing. So if you want to go back and listen to Jonathan on one of our previous episodes, he talked about everything to do with mortgage brokering and his business. But today we are focusing on marketing. So the one area that I wanted to speak to you about, because I know you've been doing this for quite a while now, is lead magnets, sales funnels, free downloads. So I think the first thing to do is to explain to us what's a lead magnet and what's a sales funnel.
Okay, so let's start with the funnel first. So a sales funnel is effectively a customer journey, just done automated for you. So if you think about every single part of the advice process as an advisor, you're already taking that customer on a client journey. All you're doing is taking a lead on a client journey. You're nurturing them from the point of cold lead, where they've just downloaded a free guide or made express an interest in something, through to a warm lead where you can effectively onboard them as a client. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now that process can be done over days, weeks, or months, depending on what type of client you're trying to attract. But yeah, it's a series of automated either emails, telephone calls, however that would look, just to nurture that.
Okay.
Okay. Now, lead magnets, that word gets thrown around quite a lot at the moment, and I think it's a real buzzword for the industry. Effectively, all we're doing is creating free value, enough interest for someone to educate them, to inform them, and to make them, a little bit more aware of the positives, negatives, pitfalls, whatever it might be for their personal circumstances. So we were quite a high level when we looked at the lead magnets that we use. So we've got a first-time buyer guide, we've got a remortgage guide, home mover guide, and a protection guide.
Mm-hmm.
So those three things are made up of 5 top tips, 4 top tips, whatever it might be for each individual area.
Mm-hmm.
I know some advisors who have got niches that they kind of approach. So they may well be there into, I don't know, particular area of self-employed, vets, doctors, whatever it might be,
Mm-hmm.
and they create lead magnets specifically for their niche, which I think is a really great way of doing it. But we decided to be a bit more high level to try and appeal to as many people as possible initially, but we will start going down the niches at some point.
Awesome. That was so well explained, because I was going to ask a lot of questions like, what are in the guides? Do you know what I mean? How many do you have? So you've just made the podcast very short. So thanks, guys. No, I'm joking. There's so much more we can go into. So if we take the first time buyer's guide, for example, just as one example. So in there might be 5 top tips of how to prepare for buying your first property. And I assume there's kind of things like download your credit score, which you could send them to your Experian affiliate link. There's, do you know what I mean? Speak to parents, etc., etc. Now we've got that particular thing, and it's a PDF, so it doesn't actually belong on paper, does it? It's not printed. It's just a PDF. So where do you put that PDF, and how do people download that PDF to be put in at the top of the sales funnel?
Brilliant. Okay, so great question. So what we do effectively is we have it all saved on our website. So we direct people to individual landing pages for each individual part of each individual guide. So there'll be a first-time buyer landing page, home mover, remortgage, and protection. Clients input their basic details, so name, email address, telephone number. Click claim my free guide, and it pops them through to the guide. Literally pops out of them, so they don't even have to wait for a download, wait for an email. It's right there, right in front of them.
Okay.
So it's all hosted on our website.
So why did you choose to give them that? So what they have to do, they have to put the name, their email address in. Do they get added to your email list, or how does, so that, and then obviously from GDPR side of things, you have to make sure you've got all the tick boxes and things on there.
Absolutely.
Why did you choose to have the PDF pop up opposed to being emailed to them?
Because nothing more frustrating than having to then go search in your emails for something. How many emails do people get every single day? I think that's the big thing. And now for me, it was a case of their high intent at that time. From the moment they click to open that guide, that's then a clock starting from my side. That lead will come through, and we can pick up the phone to them in 5 minutes. If in theory, if we're not already, with a client, whatever. But if they're reading that guide, they come to the end of that guide in 5 minutes time, they get a telephone call saying, "Oh, just downloaded a guide. Wondered if you'd like to take it further and have a further conversation about it." That high intent keeps that intensity.
Right.
So,
Okay.
that was the initial process anyway.
And we're going to get into that shortly. So if I was setting out and I wanted to create a first time buyer's guide, where do you find the information to fill that guide for people?
Okay. So it depends on your level of experience. I mean, for me, having been in property sales, I saw the pain points for a lot of first time buyers, a lot of people moving home. Remortgages was a little bit more tricky. But I use things like Answer the Public, and places like that, Quora as well, to just answer a few questions, like the most frequently asked questions. And then just use my experience of, say, 20 years of selling property and doing finance. I kind of had that bank of knowledge there already of, if I was in this situation, if I was a first time buyer, what would I want to know, or what don't I know that's already out there? how can I kind of, what would make my customer journey easier? So it's very much a case of putting yourself right in that seat of that buyer, home mover, remortgager, or person needing protection.
Okay, so before we get into the nooks and crannies of how you set that up and how you automatically send them the document, etc., talk to us about Answer the Public. It's something I speak to a lot of people about, but it'd be great to speak to somebody that has used it for this type of stuff.
Yeah, great. So it's effectively a bit of a one-stop shop for just floating ideas. It collates all the Google search entries that people have searched about a particular subject. So let's just say you're a hairdresser, for instance, which I know someone listening to this probably might not be a hairdresser, but if you're a hairdresser and you put top tips for hairdressing into Answer the Public, it will bring up questions like what's, whys, wheres, and hows. So there's lots of different potential sort of routes to go down and questions that people have asked about that particular subject. So you put in mortgages and it will say, what is a mortgage? Why is a mortgage? Where is a mortgage? You know, all those kind of, it'll come up with like 80, 90, maybe 100 different questions that people have asked about it.
And those answers are fantastic for those type of guides, because the great thing with Answer the Public is it's real-time, sorry, not real-time data, it's data that's actually been asked by people. So those questions are questions that people are out there asking at the moment. They're great for those first-time buyer guide, but as a side note, they're great for topics of social media posts, topic for videos on social media, or blog articles. Blog articles is something that a lot of people don't speak about at the moment, because we assume everybody just wants that short, sharp content in a video, and I want to know in 60 seconds. But there is a market for that longer form content that takes 5 to 10 minutes to read and breaks down what a mortgage is in a very long form piece of content. From an SEO point of view, and I don't pretend to be amazing at SEO, but if you create an article with an answer to a specific question, you're much more likely to appear when somebody searches that particular question.
I think the nature of most mortgage advisors or brokers in the market is they're relatively high intensity people. They kind of want to be able to get something out quickly because they're busy with other things. So when you look at longer form content, not many people are doing it because it's deemed quite time restrictive, or they need to employ a copywriter to write.
And it's not the sexy thing. The sexy thing is doing a TikTok dance at the moment. Do you know what I mean? Whereas blogs, I know blogs work because I know a lot of companies that use them to generate obscene amount of leads from people searching on Google.
It's not something we do, but I mean, something that really, when you did the Google Trends video recently, the Google Trends into, I think you could put it out as a story on one of your stories about using Google Trends. That sort of the amount of people that are searching those things and are keen for longer form or thirsty for knowledge on that particular subject. I think it's clear there's appetite for that.
Yeah, and I'll speak about Google Trends here because this is the marketing month. Is Google Trends, the video that I released, is Google Trends is something that's completely free, and what you can do, Google the word Google Trends, click on the website, and you can set a keyword. So I set mortgage. And then what you can do is have Google email you every day or every week with all of the articles that are out there in the news that have the words mortgage in there. So you can have content ideas delivered straight to your inbox for free. Say if there's an article there about like the mortgage guarantee scheme's just been extended in England. I think it's just England. You'll have to quote me if it is. You could do an article, you could do a post around that article because that information has been sent to you automatically for free. So go and set up Google Alerts. It's invaluable, and you've just set it up, haven't you? And you're finding it really easy to use.
Yeah, it's super easy to use, and just seeing like the trends of how information is spiking. So you look over the Christmas period and into New Year, we knew it was going to be busy because Rightmove were pushing the fact that they had the Boxing Day rush. So many properties got listed, etc., etc. But just looking at the amount of people that were also looking for business protection, that were looking for income protection, that were looking for other areas of advice outside of the mortgage sphere, but still in the personal advice sector. So it was really interesting to see that, and obviously guided a lot of how we're a lot of the content we're doing in month 1 and month 2 of the year.
If you think of it on a very simple level, what Google alerts will show you, and you can search keywords, is it will show you what people are searching for at a certain time of year. Now, to us, we know, and everybody will know, not everybody is going to be looking at the search term porting mortgages the week before Christmas. If nobody's thinking about it. January, they will do. So it will show you throughout the year as to what the trends are. But I know we're going a bit off topic there, but I thought that was worth mentioning, Google Alerts.
That's
So
really helpful to us. Yeah.
where do you create a lead magnet? So where do you create the PDF?
So we've actually we had a designer design our PDF.
Oh, okay, right.
So there's a little bit of outlay there, but purely because I had the context and the content, but not the technical knowledge. So we I suppose it's 2 years ago now that or just under 2 years ago that we originally started that conversation. A lot of back and forward. We used a lot of the branding colors as well, because we've got 4 different colors to our brand, and made sure there was a guide for every color.
Wow.
So again, just kind of.
So you had somebody create them. The thing is, it is a financial outlay at the beginning, but they're yours to keep. The other way that you can do it, a lot of people can create them in Canva or Photoshop or wherever that may be.
I mean, it was a time thing for me, and I think that's just not my strong suit. I'm proficient at Canva enough to kind of do a slideshow or get an Instagram post together or something like that, but to actually know how to structure something like that was just completely alien to me. So like with most things, if you can't find the answer to yourself, pay someone for it and it will pay itself back. And I mean, I think it cost no more than 300 or 400 quid for all the guides, and of course they've already paid for themselves.
You've got leads off the back of them. Yeah, exactly. So we've created the guide. Now you upload it to your website, or you get your website designer to upload it to the website. How do you create a landing page?
Okay, so utilizing, we're on Squarespace. Our website's very, very basic. Massively intuitive. Didn't cost a great deal to set up either. So again, ground up, cold start, pretty cost efficient. So it was literally for the website signer, it was a case of here's our main page, 4 landing pages in branded colors, linked purely for that, named first time buyer, remortgage, home mover, and protect your family, with a 4 pages. And then it's got one simple box in it. It's got our contact details at the bottom, all the FCA statements, everything we needed at the bottom, disclosures, top branding, middle, one box, contact box, looks like a contact box. Click claim here, claim your free guide here, pop your details in, and it just pings out.
Okay, awesome. So I like that. Very straightforward. If you do have a website, you can ask your designer to create your landing page. One thing I always get asked about landing pages is, are they visible on your website or are they hidden?
So they are on the first page of our website. You scroll down and you'll just see the guides, like the individual guides shown on the website.
Okay, fine.
And when you click it, then it pops you into a new window.
Okay, so they're easily accessible. Everybody can jump in and download them straight away if they want to.
And from a marketing standpoint as well, if we want to do a marketing campaign, so a Facebook campaign or Instagram or whatever, even a Google campaign directed specifically for first-time buyers, we've already got a landing page there.
Perfect. That's going to be that was my next question. We've got the landing page. We've got the PDF, and we know that if we put John Smith and download, we can get that free guide. How do you get your audience and get traffic to that landing page? What strategies do you adopt in terms of its social? Is it guerrilla marketing that you use? What do you do?
So a bit mix of both, really. So sometimes, obviously, whenever we get a new inquiry, even if they're not first time, even if they're not come through socials, they've just called us, we always send out a guide to them using that landing page.
Oh, okay.
It sounds crazy to say, well, they've already contacted us, we need them to go into a sales funnel, but we still need to nurture those people. They still need to learn more about us. and find out about what we're about the ethics of the business, the reviews we've had, etc. So I'm a big believer in like everyone going through that process. So they'll receive, and they'd be surprised how many clients of ours ping forward an email on to a friend of, this is the guy that we're using, bang, this is the introducer first email. You'd be surprised how many people do that. So a bit of both. So yeah, say Facebook marketing. We haven't gone down the Google marketing route just yet, but I think that's something we want to do. Instagram, again, on Instagram stories, you often see if I've done a little piece about a first time buyer, about remortgaging, about moving home, the next slide will be like, we also do a free download guide.
Okay.
And it just sends them straight through to the page to download the guide.
What you'll notice when Jonathan talks about this is Jonathan always leads with value. That's the whole thing around his business. If you listen to his first podcast, it's all about give the client value first, and then we'll try and get the business from them. So like he said there, I like the idea of you maybe do an Instagram story. And if you watch his Instagram stories, follow them on Sterling Southgate, because they come out with some great stuff. Jonathan will be walking down the road, he walk the dog or whatever it might be. So yeah, talking about like first time buyers. It's January, you might be thinking about buying. Did you know you can get a 5% deposit mortgage, et cetera, et cetera. When that story finishes, his next slide will then be a link to his website that says download the free guide here. And what that will do is put that person into the top of his sales funnel. Now,
it's driving intent as well. You know, if people have stayed long enough with you to go through 4 stories and not skipped forward, the likelihood is they're thinking, okay, I've learned a little bit, where do I go next? And this is where so many internet marketers just don't put their value proposition at that point. And that's where we kind of made sure that, you know, absolutely every single time we end up, it's like you open the book, you don't want there to be a cliffhanger at the end. You want to know how that book ends. And that's exactly what we're doing with the free guides and the landing pages on Instagram specifically. Yeah,
it's reminding that you've got to ask for the business. And I'm not saying you're asking for a mortgage appointment. You're asking for the business of that person taking an action. You've got to ask them to take an action, because I'm guilty of it. I'll upload Instagram stories all day long. And then, well, where's the actual call to action, Chris? What are you asking them to do at the end of your reel? I don't see. And that's the mindset shift personally I need to make, but also a lot of other people. And the call to action that Jonathan offers is more value to them. So you're asking for their email, but in exchange, I'm going to give you something that's really useful. So I'm not even selling you yet. So now you've got their email address, they're at the top of the funnel. And before the podcast started, we spoke a bit about how you changed the process of that follow-up, because you found that, well, tell us exactly what we were speaking about beforehand. So I fill in the email address, I've got your download, and you've got my details. What do you do then?
So a bit of context. I mean, the profession I came from, the business I came from before starting Sterling Southgate was geared towards lead purchase. So, you know, they didn't have any sales funnels or anything like that in place. So as an advisor, you get a lead through, and then your job is to try and just make contact with the leads as quickly as possible. Not too aggressive, because that doesn't really fit with my kind of MO, but some guys are like a bit aggressive about, right, I need to call this lead 5 times, I need to text them, email them, And I've almost got into the pattern of doing that. So when I'm setting these guides up and giving people that value, as soon as that person had opened up that PDF on their phone, which is invariably where most people do it, within 5 minutes, I wanted that lead called. I wanted to call that lead, let them know, look, we've seen you're interested. Let's get a call in. Let's find out a bit more about your situation. Let's help you. I was yielding quite low results as a result of that. So yes, I'd get let's just say 20% out of, so 2 out of 10 of those downloads would answer straight away and be like, yeah, let's crack on, let's do something. Let's get a call booked in. Let's find out a bit more about what you're about, and vice versa. But then there were 8 there that would just kind of languish. And I'd email, I'd call, I'd text, and then eventually they'd just peter out. So I think that's most advisors who come from that lead purchase background are probably a bit guilty of that as well. Your high intent leads, that 20%, 30%, that's all very well and good. You kind of make your business out of that. Your business can work. But with Sterling Southgate, what I wanted to do is try and add additional value beyond that and nurture that client and make sure that, you know, we're not just hounding them. We're giving them an opportunity to learn about us, understand about our business, get a bit more value from what they're looking to do, and then at that point they will contact us or we will contact them continually throughout that process. Make sense?
Yes. Yeah. So it's not a case of you've submitted your details, you've downloaded it. Now do you want a mortgage? Yep. It's more of you'll keep in touch with them and keep them up to date. And how do you add value further down the line then after they've got that PDF?
So in some of the PDFs, we have things like an additional budget planner, which is like a follow-up document. So we'll talk to them about budget planning and how important it is if first-time buyers or those moving home, you know, how important it is to adjust to that new budget, etc. But then there was no budget planner in there, so I'll put it absolutely on purpose so that you know, 2 days down the line, oh, by the way, we talked a bit about budget in that first guide. Here's the budget planner that goes along with that, so feel free to fill it in. It gets them in the mindset of kind of getting numbers out of their head and down onto paper, so that when we have a conversation with them, they've already done their budget plan. They have an indication of where they can save money, where they can spend money, what that budget for the mortgage looks like, etc. So that's quite an interesting piece. And videos on videos with customer testimonials is a really good one. One of the bigger mistakes I think I made when I set up the funnels was I was 100% video focused. So every single email was a video, and it was just like, that's too heavy.
Yeah,
it was too much. So I had to pull back a bit from that and put in more, you know, Google reviews and stuff like that.
And how often do you send these nurturing emails? Is it once a week, once a month?
Yeah, so we've played around with it a lot. Key time is obviously an immediate thank you email. So as soon as they've received that, as soon as they've got the guide open, within about an hour, I think it's on the hour actually, is a thank you email with an introductory video of me saying, hi, thanks a lot for downloading the guide. In the next series of emails, we're going to explore, you know, being a first-time buyer or remortgaging, what it means to you, and, you know, a bit more about our firm. And that's kind of how we lay out the proposition and what they're going to expect. If they just start getting emails through like randomly, they're going to start thinking, well, this guy's just spamming me. So we're not interested. Anyway, so we then send them another email 3 days after that. So that was in the first time buyer and the remortgage and the home mover actually as well. All three would have the budget planner. Then there would be 3 days after that with our Google reviews. Then a questionnaire, like, so just asking a bit more about their home move, what they're looking to achieve, so something a bit more interactive. So it's mixing it up really. We do this all through MailChimp. I'm just about to say,
how do you do it? What do you use?
So MailChimp launched their journeys, I suppose, middle of last year. And so that's basically where we host it all. It's all done there. So Vimeo is where all the videos are hosted. But yeah.
So just to explain for people listening to this, because it might be quite new, and I'll be honest, it's new to me because I've just started this process of creating a lead magnet and doing email automation. Is there are bits of software out there like MailChimp, ActiveCampaign, MailerLite. There's loads of different offerings. And what it does is it almost starts like an automation process. So MailChimp, they're called journeys. And what happens, like Jonathan said there, they'll download the PDF, they get an email 3 days later, another 3 days, they get an email. And then what you can cleverly do, and this is my understanding, is if they respond to that email, they can be put into a different workflow. So if they respond to your email and they've booked an appointment, they could then go into a series of, you booked your appointment, this is what you need to expect. And then after their appointment, there could be an automatic email to say, how was your appointment? What could we change? Yep. And all of this can be done automatically for you. I spent about 4 hours setting up automations. It's like a new language. And what I'm going to say is, when I speak to people about social media and social media channels, I understand now how confusing it can be to learn something completely new. And that's a learn from me. I'm going to take a step back and do it more step by step with people. But
the biggest advice I ever had from a previous employer was you need to go through the gears with people. So
Hmm.
you know, not everyone's going to
Like
be,
that.
and not everyone's going to be fluent in the language of mortgages or fluent in the language of social media or sales funnels. So it's going through the gears, and
Hmm.
not in a patronizing way, but just making sure that they've got a base level of understanding before you start going to second, third, fourth layer. Some people just want, like, you know, they just want to know, okay, what's the end result to me doing
Yep.
this? And then that encourages them to then go through the process of doing what they're doing. Same with mortgages. The end result is buying the house. They don't really want the mortgage. They don't really want the protection. They want the house. So
Hmm.
it's a case of how we get them to A to B as smoothly as possible. And that's where sales funnels and journeys and the like, once you kind of really delve into it, and you can lose several days just getting into this stuff. And just because there's so many, I'd say, so many providers doing it. And also
It's
making sure
go on. Sorry.
making sure the quality of the initial document that they're receiving
Hmm.
gives them enough, but doesn't over educate so much that they don't need any more information. If you go so dense with the copy and so dense with the information that's like reading a textbook, people are going to be switched. Majority of people will be switched off. There are some people who love that, but the majority of people will be just completely switched off. I'm just going to call an advisor and just get the answer. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And unfortunately, it might not be you as an advisor. They might just take that document and go and read it all and go, oh, great, I know exactly what to do. I'm going to phone up Halifax and do it myself.
yeah.
Well, no, actually, what happens is Jonathan gives them a taster,
Mm.
then puts them into this sequence of emails. By the fourth email, yes, they probably know how to arrange a mortgage and do it. But at that point, you'd have hoped they've bought into you. So they know you, they like you, and they trust you enough to say, I'd much rather Jonathan do it than go to a bank and get it done myself.
I think we spoke about this last time, didn't we? About the lurkers on social media, the people who
Mm-hmm.
sit in the background that watch your stories, never engage, then just turn around and go, right, I'm ready to do a mortgage. And you're
Yeah.
like, what? Like,
I don't know who you are, but they know who you
precisely,
are. Yeah.
absolutely. I think that's imperative to know that everyone's on there in their own time frame.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you want them to do a mortgage now or in 6 months doesn't matter. They will do it when they're ready to do it.
Mm-hmm. You can't force them.
Especially with first-time buyers. It takes a lot for some first-time buyers to pick up that phone and say, "Hi, I'm interested in getting a mortgage." They don't know
Mm-hmm.
where to start. They've done a bit of research, but a lot of them are quite nervous about that journey. And it's a case of how we can educate them in between that initial download and that contact that they're comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other thing to point out at this stage is what happens at the end of that funnel. Because
Yes. Tell us.
too often I've seen people just drop off the radar. So when we first built our MailChimp funnels, it was a case of what do we do at the end? And we then put them into a monthly newsletter that
Okay.
our network distributes. So it doesn't actually cost us anything to do that, but it just means that they've had that initial hit of information over a 3-week period. And then after that, it's a monthly drip feed of
Mm-hmm.
still here, here's some more information.
Perfect example of that is I had it done to me and I bought a product. So I looked at a graphic design company and looked at them probably last year and signed up to their website. And I had for about 14 days had an email every other day telling me about how good they were, who they were, what they do. And I looked through it and I was like, look, it's a good service. You know what I mean? I might do it in the future, blah, blah, blah. Then November, I had an email saying, just an automated one. Hi, Chris. We haven't spoken in a while. This is what we offer. Just reminding you what we do, etc., etc. I was like, I need that service now. I didn't act on the first 14 days, but I remember them sending all the emails through. And then when I needed them, it's very similar to what you said. I'm not going to phone them when I don't need them, but they emailed when I needed them. So that is a perfect example. You've got to keep in touch with your clients, either via email, through social, however it may be. You need to stay at the forefront of their mind for them to take action when they're ready.
Absolutely. There's that push marketing doesn't work anymore. It's all about pull marketing, isn't it? So
Could you explain the difference between those for people listening?
Push marketing is knocking on someone's front door. Pull marketing is inviting them to a party. That's the way that I kind of always think of it in my head. Like when in a state agency, and you'll know this, Chris, from your time way back when, I don't know when,
About 3 years ago.
but like there were some agents that would just knock doors
Hmm.
Going on a street with leaflets, knock on the door, and that would yield some results. It would keep their presence to a degree, but that's push marketing. That's them saying, I'm here, use me, I'm here, use me, I'm here, use me.
Hmm.
Pull marketing is very much a case of inviting that whole street to a street party and then just having a conversation with them. And then eventually at that end of that conversation, your personality, your proposition selling itself.
Hmm.
Uh,
It's very similar to this in the marketing world. It's kind of like interrupting marketing, which is what paid advertising is. That I'm scrolling through and I'm looking at a photo of a cat, a dog, friend's baby, etc. And then an advert comes up for shoes, and I'm like, I don't want shoes. And that's why you see so many negative comments on paid advertising.
Yeah.
And not like paid advertising definitely works, but it's putting stuff in front of people when they don't want it on their feed.
Yeah.
Whereas what Jonathan's saying is that pull marketing is, I'm going to give you a PDF. I'm going to tell you how to get a mortgage. I'm not going to sell you a mortgage. I'm going to tell you how to do it.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between the two.
It's interesting because I think one goes hand in hand with the other in this instance.
Yes, I suppose it does. Yeah.
We need some interruption to let them know about our value proposition.
Yeah.
And that's obviously the value proposition being the free.
But is that interrupting a positive? Because it's, I'm going to interrupt your feed with something that's going to bring you value instead of, I'm going to interrupt your feed and try and sell you something.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
that's the difference, isn't it?
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Yeah. I think
So the final question, sorry to interrupt.
No, it's fine. Carry on.
Final question, which I'm sure a lot of mortgage advisors are wanting the answer to, is how successful is this type of thing, and what is the length of time from somebody signing up to becoming a lead? And I know that's a very general question, but if you could answer it best you could.
Yeah, so it depends on how actively you promote it. If it sits there on your website and no one knows about it, which in quiet spells I've probably been guilty of. The resources there, I haven't pushed it because stream of leads come in, and being an advisor on my own, you kind of get caught up in that. I need to write this business, then you go, okay, I haven't got any leads, then you kind of go through that cycle. And I think a lot of people go through that cycle. So if you don't actively push it, it's not going to do anything for you. I think that's the thing. That it's one thing having the resources, another thing actually putting it to good use. So consistency, as with anything, is always key. And utilizing social media and a bit of paid advertising as well on Facebook and Instagram. That's led, the paid advertising led to probably 2 to 3 leads a week, but from a minimal ad spend. I mean, we're talking about 100 quid a month.
Right. Okay.
And they were relatively high intensity leads. Sometimes you get some people a bit left field or whatever, but that's the nature of the beast. I would say organically, again, at its peak, when there's peak interest. So during the summer, things like first time buyer and home mover guides just plateaued. But
summer holidays
but the protection guide came into its own. They're sitting there with their loved ones, like, okay, and an advert flicks up saying, like, do you have the right protection in place? Download this guide to find out more. Then all of a sudden they're kind of a bit more interested. So yeah, averagely 2 to 3 per week, which, given the high intensity of some of those leads, and the fact that you'll capture, it's what we didn't speak about, you'll capture more people by running a sales journey or a sales funnel or journey with them, than you will just calling them sort of and then forgetting about the rest.
Yeah.
So I would say that our conversion rate's gone up from 20% to 60%.
Wow. Just by nurturing them, opposed them coming in and phoning them and then phoning them 10 times and then going, they're not interested, sending them 5 or 6 nurture emails and then contacting them at the end.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's again about that, just keeping in the mind's eye. As I say, they're nothing on their own. They need to be talked about, pushed, put in front of people. One thing we did at the tail end of last year was we emailed the whole of the database that we've got of clients and said, if you know a first-time buyer, here's a free first-time buyer guide. Anyone remortgaging, here's a remortgage guide. Anyone who's looking to move home, here's a home mover guide. Just forward on the email if you can. It would do us a great deal of service. Thank you very much.
Oh, awesome. So, and almost get your clients to do it for you.
Yeah, because they live the service, right? They know what you're about. If you're good enough, they'll pass it on.
Yeah.
If you're not, they won't. And that probably got us another. We did it start of December before it all kicked off for Christmas. It probably got us another 10, 12 clients
Wow.
during
Just off the back of sending one email. And the likes of MailChimp, Active Campaign, everything around about $15 to $30 a month, depending on how many people you have.
Yeah, so MailChimp costs us about 13 quid. It's nothing really. And we've got full journeys for each. But Active Campaign we found a bit more expensive, but it's got more functionality. It's a more established, and it kind of beats the spam filters a bit better, I think. But one thing with these things, you can track who's opening the emails as well. So if you're into the detail, like I am with these things, you know, when I set up a campaign for first-time buyers, I want to know of that 20, 30, 40 people who have downloaded that guide, how many people are actually getting to email 3 and opting out, you know, and then that enables us to kind of tweak and refine that process for people as well.
And these are all things that you can do as you get, speaking to the listeners here, as you get into the process, you can start looking at the nitty gritty. But I think you've really broken it down for a lot of the listeners, and definitely myself, listening to how you do it, because it's something we're going into. So it's been really interesting to hear somebody that has been there and done it. And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that will go out there now and start looking at these kind of guides. Because as you say, they don't have to be first-time buyers. They could be first-time self-employed first-time buyers or self-employed remortgages. You can really make specific niche products for people and set up loads of different landing pages.
Absolutely.
It does take a lot of work up front, doesn't it? But from listening to this, Jonathan, it sounds like it's reaping rewards for you now. I
think it's really interesting because, you know, all you need to do is look back at your last 2 months' clients. What are the most common questions you've had? What kind of clients have you actually attracted? You know, when we first started this business, I wanted to attract accountants, solicitors, and property professionals. They were the 3 areas we wanted to niche down in. Didn't have anything for them. Why were they going to come to me? They weren't.
Yeah.
So I think that's where understanding the people you're already talking to, the people you're dealing with already will be the kind of people you attract. So, you know, if you're dealing with first-time buyers, you say to yourself, I really just want to deal with high net worth individuals. It's a huge mindset shift, a huge shift in your business and pattern and everything to get to that stage. You're better off just saying what the 5 pain points for first-time buyers, writing them down, and then just doing a paragraph, maybe 2 about each. And there you go. Then there's the start.
You've got yourself a lead magnet and then set it up. Jonathan, it was just going to be about half an hour, I thought, but we're at 40 minutes. It's been great talking to you about it and really getting into detail about exactly how you do it. Where's the best place for people to connect with you if they have any questions or want to have a chat?
LinkedIn's probably the best place at the moment. As I say, you know, that LinkedIn or at sterlingsouthgate.jonathan, I think it is at the moment, on Instagram. So yeah, so Jonathan Southgate on LinkedIn or Instagram, best place.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you very much for your time. And I'm sure we'll have you back on again.
Speak soon. Cheers.
Cheers, Jonathan. Thank you.